Welcome to the Infrastructure Podcast. My name is Anthony Oliver, and today we're taking a close look at the work of the Women in Property Network and previewing a few events that they've got planned in May at UKREiiF, the UK Real Estate Investment and Infrastructure Forum. Joining me today is Sam McCabe, the newly installed National Chair of Women in Property, who in her day job is Passive House Lead for the UK and Sustainable Buildings Lead for Scotland at consultant WSP. There is much to discuss at the UKREiiF event. The property and infrastructure sector is at a moment of both urgency and opportunity. Huge amounts of public and private investment are promised to underpin the nation's growth ambitions, yet there are still a vast number of barriers to overcome. Sam's theme for her year in office tackles these challenges head on and underpins her career mission to deliver buildings and infrastructure that actually work for the environment, for people, for communities and for the bottom line. So when she talks about building more with less, she makes a direct challenge to the industry's silo mentality and the systemic influences that too often see great designs diluted by late-stage value engineering. And by championing inclusive leadership as a practical means to drive better decision-making, Sam is setting out at both WIP and at WSP to bridge the gap between diversity and delivery. So, as usual, the question is how to drive change. So let's dig in and discuss her vision for a more collaborative, more diverse, more effective and more sustainable industry. Sam, welcome to the Infrastructure Podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. So that was a really lovely introduction. I don't know how I'm going to follow that.
Well, just plough on, shall we? Let's start, Sam, by talking about women in property. It's moved far beyond the simple networking group. So in 2026, how do you define its role as a champion or even as a disruptor in the property and construction sector? What does it do and what's it for?
Oh, it's we've been here for 40 years next year. It's really exciting to see how we've changed and evolved with the construction industry over that time. We are more than a networking group. We open the conversation to women to allow them to not be afraid to speak up and to make people in general see that anything's possible, championing women of all ages and throughout their careers and showing that they should be comfortable to speak and they can do so. So we're networking, we do mentoring across disciplines.
So just to be clear, that it's a women's only network, but men are routinely invited to the events.
Correct. It's a women's only network at the moment, and our membership entitles you to the mentoring program. But men are more than welcome at all of our events. We have plenty of male allies. In fact, I'm doing an event just before UKREiiF with Male Allies UK to discuss more about how we can work together. Okay,
I'll flag that up in the show notes, I'm sure, so we can make sure that people are aware of that. But as you say, it's a multidisciplinary membership. I suppose that makes it uniquely positioned to break down some of those silos that I mentioned. How are you using this cross-fertilization of ideas? From architecture to engineering to infrastructure to finance to policy. How are you using those that cross-fertilization to solve problems that perhaps a single disciplinary approach couldn't tackle?
I think traditionally there's been those silos are there, aren't they? And architects don't talk to architects and engineers don't talk to engineers and there's been a focus on delivering well what you do in your own box in order to build better and to build more using less materials and less embodied carbon and less effort and less reworking and at the end of the day, less energy. We need to be looking holistically at construction and everything that entails. So this network opens barriers to give people that voice to help you talk to other people and break down those silos.
That sounds a bit like you're talking about collaboration there, Sam.
Oh, shh, don't tell anybody.
Okay. Well, I've read that you are really clear that success should be founded, success in careers in the property, the construction infrastructure sector should be based and founded on merit rather than gender. So therefore, how does Women in Property practically ensure that the merit of women is being seen by those in the highest levels of the boardroom?
We've got membership that crosses over all areas of the construction industry and real estate industry. We're involved with all parliamentary groups and we do a lot of work with Westminster and papers. We've just recently launched a paper about research that we've done about building balance, which we're talking to Male Allies UK about as well, and trying to find a balance between life today and life as a woman, life as a mother, life with menopause, everything that hits us.
Right.
But then still trying to be in the boardroom and show that you can talk about these things. You can be a woman today, and it is okay to say no to things. You don't have to say yes to everything. But I think one of the most powerful things about women in property is that female leadership and showing that there is somewhere that you can get to, and helping the younger generations understand and work towards that. And everything to do with EDI is about having being seen and having visibility of people like you.
Yeah, I mean, there was a phrase that was used at an event I was at recently about the need for, yes, mentoring is, we need mentoring, but we also need sponsorship. People who are talking about people when they're not in the room, i.e. bringing them in and making sure that they are being seen by those at the highest level of the boardroom. Do you recognise that kind of phrase?
I have, yeah, I've come across it before. I think it's a really lovely way to talk about just doing what we should be doing and talking about our colleagues as nicely as we can. I mean, it's got nothing to do with being a woman. It's got, it is about just how we should be behaving. So, yeah.
Well, next month, as I say, the Women in Property is hosting a flagship breakfast at the UKREiiF show in Leeds. It's being held at Harvey Nichols' fourth floor cafe, I believe. So look that up if you want to get along to it. Why is it vital for the heavy hitters of the investment and government policy to be in the room with women in property specifically?
It's vital because there's still conversations about discrimination around redundancies and discrimination when women go on maternity leave. We still don't have equal paternity and maternity leave in this country. We're getting there. It's very good what we've got here. But these things are what is being discussed at Westminster, which is putting the policies out there. So it's vital that we have women at the centre and at the highest rungs of society, so that these conversations are being seen from all angles and that we have got an equal, diverse society talking about things.
Yeah. Let's talk about your role as chair, your themes and objectives for the year. I mean, your year you describe as building more with less. How do you describe that objective? I try to set the scene at the top, but how do you put it in your own words?
Professionally, for me, it means quite a lot. We're being pushed to deliver more and more and more with less resources and less people. We want to build better performing buildings by using less carbon and using less energy long term. We need to build more of our industry by investing in our young people and helping bring them through. So it really does sort of tie into a lot of different areas of the construction industry and what's facing us today as an industry. But primarily, the big key ticket item is building more construction using less material to do it, basically.
Well, because we'll talk about your career in a minute, but you've transitioned from being an architect to being a professional dealing with building performance. And I suppose in an era of high costs and climate targets, is this a call for austerity in design, or is it a manifesto for radical efficiency? Where are you on that sort of spectrum?
Definitely on the latter one, the radical efficiencies, building better, building things the first time, controlling what we're building, and reducing the ambiguity around late stage design changes, locking things in, locking in costs, and helping to de-risk projects through quality control, and tying performance to the delivery and making sure that is how we get to net zero.
Yeah. Well, you've spoken about that gap between performance and design, but the gap in performance between design intent and delivered reality. There isn't enough. I mean, it's said quite often. There's not enough post completion performance evaluation that goes on. It's just not enough of it. I mean, as national chair, how do you use your platform to hold the industry accountable for what it actually builds?
Oof, That's a big question. I think it's just about giving a voice to something that at the moment sustainability is still seen as an add-on. It's a very broad term, and people are terrified of net zero across the UK. There's been significant changes, and I would say in Scotland in particular, we're quite a way ahead of the rest of quite a large part of the UK with regards to that, because for schools in particular, a few years ago, the funding for schools was tied into their performance, and doing that basically brings the investment and infrastructure costs linking to the performance of a building on a day-to-day basis. It's sort of from the macro down to the micro, and that's what I want to focus on, and that's what I can focus on. We need to give it a voice. We need to show that sustainability is an add-on. We have no choice. We're going to have islands around the world underwater in a couple of years' time if we don't start to sort this out. And we can't do this by ourselves. We have to do this collaboratively. We have to break down these silos. We all need to learn from each other. The industry's changing so fast, and nobody knows everything there is to know about where we are and where we're going. It's being able to listen to our peers and our colleagues, which is where this network helps, because it opens up those conversations more freely with people in the same industry.
Yeah. And that's where that helps influence the relationship between those setting the budgets and those delivering the outcomes.
It puts them in the same room.
Let's talk about your career and your background. You are currently WSP's Passive House lead, but you're also Sustainable Buildings lead for Scotland. As a career sustainability professional, I mean, how do you describe a sustainable design? Where does it start? Where does it stop? Is it still even relevant with all the different pressures that are on the design world nowadays?
Do you know what? I'd really like to be sitting here in 5 years' time and say sustainability is not a word that even is used in relation to our buildings, because we're just building well and properly in the first instance. What we need to do is make sure that we're looking at first principles at their orientation and making the most of the solar gains as and when we want them, and making sure that they're working holistically with their heating systems.
Yeah. Which is just good design, sure. It's just all about good design.
Exactly. It's just about good design, but that has been pushed away from us and pulled away from us. And value engineering is doing that by just diluting what we're setting out to do in the first instance on a project. And it just dilutes. We set all these amazing targets on a project in REiiF stage 1 and 2. By the time we get to 3 and 4, they start to oh, that's a bit expensive, that's too expensive, or value engineer that. It's like, well, if we spend more time at the beginning designing better, and then we shouldn't need to value engineer it. We should be working to a budget. We should be working to an energy budget and an embodied carbon budget, and they should all be tied together.
What drives your passion for? I was going to say drives your passion for sustainable design, but what drives your passion for better design?
I think it comes from growing up in Queensland, actually, and not being able to afford air conditioning, and living in a home and seeing homes all around me that responded to the weather and the elements, and the rain that comes in sideways in the storm season, and the sun that the burn time is 15 minutes. And so you've got overhangs on your buildings and you've got windows smaller on the western elevation because you don't want to get the heat gains. And it's just understanding the environment around the property that you're living in and working in, and making sure that the architecture reflects that as passively as possible. Yeah. That's where it comes from. So
it comes from your back. I mean, as you say, you are Australian. You started your career in Brisbane with Frank Ferro Architects, age 19. Then you moved to the UK in 2003. And after a decade of career shuttling between Manchester and Brisbane, you joined design practice Scott Brownrigg in 2014 and settled in Edinburgh. So you've talked about your life in Brisbane, but it's very, very different in Scotland. What prompted the move? It's clearly, was it the weather? I don't know.
Oh, I married a Scotsman. It's always about a man.
Well, what was the biggest culture shock? I suppose when you talk about your life in Brisbane, the climate is in your face.
It really is. Yes, it really dictates everything. And I think when you come to the UK, there has been, this is a very generalised statement, but I think that there is a general ignoring of solar gain and solar losses when we're looking at certain types of properties and the impact that can have. And there's a project that recently completed in Aberdeen, and we got the orientation correct to the point where there was a sister project going on another site, same parameters as what we were doing, except we got the orientation right. We used 50 millimeters less insulation than this other project that didn't. They just aligned to the streets, like tens of millions of properties are done that way. That's been the biggest change for me, is this, just we need to build now, and this is the site, and this is how you're going to do it, and just not and this is a very broad generalization, but
you're a passive house expert. I mean, have you become or does your background make you more obsessional about reducing energy consumption?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's that awareness that that certain places that you love are going to be underwater if we continue to go the way we're going, and that climate change is real, and it's affecting every single one of us in a different way on any given day. It's harder to ignore in Australia than it is here, and there's certain places around the UK where it's becoming very hard to ignore the flooding and the overheating, and it is very difficult to ignore, and I think it has really impacted on what I do and how I live.
Well, you've talked about Scotland and Wales. You mentioned it earlier, it being perhaps the leaders in low energy construction policy. Perhaps that Scotland are doing things which the rest of the UK maybe needs to copy. Are there any particular examples of things that the UK could adopt, or more widely across the UK immediately?
I think that's a really topical thing to say, because the Future Home Standard's just been launched this week, which is an extraordinary jump forward for the UK, for England in particular, with regards to reducing the amount of energy that our homes are going to be wasting on a daily basis, and by changing the building regulations and what is expected at the highest level, and that will drive change and better, more efficient properties to be built moving forward. And it's really, really exciting to see that change. It's a great step forward.
Well, we'll see how it all rolls out. And let's get stuck in a bit more about net zero and the challenge of building sustainably a bit later. But I mean, do you ever stop thinking about sustainable design? What do you do when you're not at work and worrying about passive house construction? How do you recharge? You say you've got a husband. I think you've got a 15-year-old daughter.
Yes, yeah, she's 15 in a couple of weeks' time. So that's a challenge. Recharging generally means escaping the 15-year-old. I quite like.
Where do you go to escape then?
Really, really lovely area around where I live in Edinburgh is we've got Blackford Hill, and we've got the Meadows, and we've got Arthur's Seat. So I love to go out for a run or a walk, or I'm doing the sweat working. Women in Property are doing a sweat working cycle from London to Paris in September, which I have signed up for. So I'm going to have to get on my bike very soon and start training for that as well.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And bear in mind that, yes, there's quite a few hills around Scotland, I imagine. So, be prepared for those. Get yourself some gears.
Yeah, I think so. I'm a bit nervous about that, right. But hopefully I'll be okay by September. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. But there's a lot for you to do at work. There's a lot for you to do at home. A lot for you to do in the training. But how do you maintain the balance? During your year as Women in Property National Chair, you've got that's a busy role, I imagine. Plus, you've got a relatively new role at WSP. You're a busy person.
Apparently so. Yeah. I've got a brilliant group of, you know what's interesting? I was about to say I've got a brilliant group of friends through Women in Property, and I do. I've met these incredible women from all over the country, from all different backgrounds. 8 years ago when I joined Women in Property, and they help you through. They are really wonderful women who we're all interested in each other, not about the company that you work for or what you do on a daily basis. Well, we can get to that, but at the heart of it, it's about people and understanding each other, and they get me through each day, I think. So.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a bit more about this challenge of building sustainably, because the concept of net zero, I mean, it is under fire politically in the UK and around the world. I mean, professionally, should we be concerned
about it being? No, I don't.
Under fire, and I
don't think so. I think yeah. Well, obviously, we're a bit worried when it is out there, but at the end of the day, I don't think we should be. I think we need. The Future Home Standard is a really great step towards making that government actually show that they are invested in this. I think it was interesting, one of your recent podcasts where you had Donna on talking about investment in infrastructure and the impact that's going to have sustainability has on our pension funds moving forward. And when we talk about pension funds, we're talking about investments, aren't we, in their assets, and they need to make their assets net zero. They need to show that they are performing. We need that money to be tied to the performance. And I think that's where, as a profession, will come into our fold as sustainability engineers and passive house consultants. Is about improving the quality of the constructions that we have and proving the value of them to the pension funds, and it all lines up together. You know what I mean?
Well, the reality, Sam, is that more diverse thinking in the sector should give us these better outcomes. And you talk about inclusive leadership as being a practical driver for better decision making, not just a cultural issue. I mean, is that what Women in Property is all about then? It's basically enabling the industry to make better decisions by having a more inclusive, diverse set of brains behind it.
I think so. And it's giving women empowerment to speak up. It's giving women that it's all right. You know, I think we all go through different phases in our careers, and maybe men are better at hiding it than women. But, you know, when you leave the industry and you take a year out to have a child, or you take 2 years or 5 years and you come back, your confidence gets knocked. And it's really, it gets knocked for a long time because of the pressure that you put on yourself more than anything. And so to be able to be part of a professional network where everybody understands the industry we're in and the pressures that we're in, but also understands the extra pressures that we're putting on ourselves as women in this industry, it's quite empowering, and it does allow you to have those conversations openly about how you can support each other. That's why I love it, I think.
Yeah. Well, Women in Property is certainly a firm supporter. I think it's a Property Week's Inspiring Diversity in Property pledge. I mean, what is that? And I suppose for the skeptics, what's where is the measurable benefit that a company sees once they sign up to and enact that kind of pledge?
It's about allowing women to be the best that they can be and believe in your employees. Having an employee join Women in Property is an investment in them as a person. It will bring benefits to your company because it will put them in a space which can lead to conversations, which can lead to project wins. It's enabling them to be in those positions, and it's enabling them to know that you believe in them and that you're happy to invest in them.
Right.
So it's a win-win for everybody, isn't it?
Women in Property, of course, is also really championing bringing more people into the industry. And I know you've got the Future Industries program to encourage more industry entrants from more diverse backgrounds. And I also see that there's a session at UKREiiF called Graduate to Chartered, Understanding the Journey, targeting graduates. Why is it still so hard to get a diverse workforce into the sector?
I think it comes back to education and education of the sector, but education in general at school age, and that awareness of what is a construction role. Construction role is not just being out there in the rain, building brick walls, or it is about being at your desk with a spreadsheet, doing quantity surveyor and looking at the costs of materials and the quantity of materials.
So when you say education, you mean not just the subjects that have been taught. You mean it's the actual the way that the education sector is portraying it as a career? I think
it is. I think we have a program at Women in Property, which is our schools outreach program, which sits alongside the future industries, and it allows us to go as a group of professionals into a school and work with year 9 and S2 students and help them understand what it's like to do a day in our job, and how to help them understand what are the other options out there that they can use their everyday maths that they're working on in class, and how that can translate into a real life job in the future in this incredible industry. Because
there are many options. A job in the built environment isn't just about being an architect or an engineer. There's a lot more nuance, and there's a lot more options.
Yeah, there's hundreds of different types of engineers. WSP has probably got every type of engineer you can imagine. It blows my mind. And if you can think of it, we probably do it. And it's extraordinary. And it's extraordinary because it really looks for talent and talented people, and it helps nourish that talent and help push them through the industry. So I'm really grateful for them actually for investing in me and allowing me to do this Women in Property role, because it's pushing me and nourishing me at a different stage in my career.
Well, you could argue that the advantage that the industry's got is that young people are genuinely interested in solving climate change. They're genuinely interested in the world around them. So how do we sell a career in infrastructure and property to a generation that views the industry as perhaps being part of the climate change problem rather than the solution?
We need them to be learning from our mistakes and to be looking at it. They look at things differently. They don't have the 30 years that we've had in this career of doing things the wrong way. We're learning on a daily basis how to adapt to this new world of AI and construction and the changes and everything that's happening, but they're starting the journey with that. And so we can learn from them as they're learning quicker and adapting faster than what we are. But also their standard that they're coming out of university with is already at the level that we've been trying to get to for the last 20, 30 years.
So the rise of digital technology and AI is a positive thing for you on careers then?
Absolutely. I think it's an enhancement of talent, and it's about just opening up conversation and working with it and with people. But at the end of the day, it can't do the design. It can't have that human aspect of understanding how people use spaces and how people feel in spaces, and that comfort aspect that humans will always have.
Let's talk a bit to finish off with about wider Women in Property objectives. I mean, your People Innovation Place Summit in Salford, which is upcoming. It's in
23rd of April.
On the 23rd of April. Thank you very much. It's open to all genders. Why? And we mentioned this earlier that it's a women-only network, but men are very much invited to these events. Why is it important that these initiatives aren't just women talking to women?
Well, that would create division within society. Again, and we don't want to do that. We're about trying to create collaboration. We want to give women a voice and empower them to speak up and to come into conversations and But we need men there to do that. We can't do this by ourselves. It's like everything we've spoken about today. Yeah. Nothing can be done in isolation.
But we want to, what you're trying to do at Women in Property is give women a stronger voice. So fast forward then to 28th of February 2027, Sam, at the end of your term. What is the one industry silo that you hope to have permanently dismantled?
Oh, goodness. Hopefully not my sanity. I think just having sustainability on the table and not seen as an added extra. That's the number one thing, is just as getting us talking about that.
Just part of the good design process.
Yeah, and it is, we just have to do it. It's not, there's no, well, we'll just throw the net zero aspirations out the window because we just can't afford it. So you can't afford not to do it. Yeah.
Well, looking forward to the UKREiiF event then. I mean, if you could ensure that every delegate to that breakfast leaves with just one thought regarding your building with more with less theme, what would it be?
So we've got the two events actually. So there's the breakfast event, and then there's an afternoon event that we're co-hosting with Women in Architecture. And I think it would just be about breaking down those silos, find your voice, ask questions. It's okay to ask questions of other people around the boardroom table. If you don't understand what they're saying, the chances are the person next to you doesn't either. Yeah. So, that would be my takeaway.
So finally, then, what do you want the Sam McCabe era of Women in Property to be defined and remembered by?
I honestly haven't thought about this before. I think I want to empower education at all levels. So through our schools outreach program, through and just generally letting people find their voice and feel comfortable in asking questions about how we could do things better and what we could do better, and have sustainability as not as an added extra. It's included in what we're doing. Yeah.
It's part of this process of getting better design. Thanks, Sam. It's great to meet you and to hear all about your ambitions for Women in Property. I look forward to seeing you all at UKREiiF in Leeds next month. But do hop over to their website. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to get a ticket to the show, the event, or register for the Women in Property Breakfast at Harvey Nichols on the 19th of May. But in the meantime, thanks so much for joining me on the Infrastructure Podcast today.
Thanks, Anthony. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Great to see you. Look, sadly, that's all we've got time for on the podcast now, but there's more in the pipeline as we continue to probe the big issues facing the sector. If you haven't done so already, do check out the Infrastructure Podcast website, www.infrastructure-podcast.com, where you will find background information and all the latest podcasts to listen to and to share. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks again to Sam. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.